Friends, today, actually, once this subsides, we're going to talk peonies. It's like, well, we need a bigger porch. Okay, we're going to talk peonies. We're going to talk why I'm planting them right now, how I design with them, my favorite varieties, and then I'm throwing 2 in the ground because fall is the perfect time to plant your peonies. Oh my gosh. So let's break down just some super duper basics about peonies. You can buy peonies as a plant or as a bare root. The bare root is obviously going to be less expensive. You can get a really robust root. You generally want to look for 3 to 5 eyes at the least. These are the little teeny tiny red, pink, and sometimes white nubbies that are going to be growing. And you can buy bare roots either in the spring, so late winter, early spring, or you can buy them right now. Right now it is October, and I think this is such an underutilized planting time for peonies. So when you tuck your roots into the ground, you're going to do it now or you're going to do it late winter, early spring. If you're going to tuck a plant into the ground, you typically are going to buy those in the spring. That's when you commonly see them. But honestly, you can put a peony that's actually in the active stage of growing any time of the year if the ground is not frozen. So when we talk about peonies, there are really 3 categories that we refer to. We've got herbaceous, we have tree peonies, and we have Itoh peonies. Now, as a designer, I'm rarely going to use a tree peony. Tree peonies are incredible. They have gorgeous form. They keep that woody structure year round, and they also grow slow as can be. As my dad would say, slow as molasses in January. We're talking like 1 to maybe 5 or 6 inches a year, but they are a slow moving boat. The 2 that I play with as a designer are the herbaceous and the Itoh, and I kind of want to break them down. Herbaceous, these are the ones that we commonly see. They've got the big fluffy head, very multi-petaled. This is kind of what everyone thinks of when they think of a peony. These are ones that are herbaceous, so they come up in the spring, they've got beautiful new growth, they bloom for a short window, and then those blooms are done. They hold their foliage until frost, and then it dies back to the ground. Now, Itoh peonies are essentially an intersection. Someone named Mr. Itoh in Japan, he was the hybridizer that came up with these peonies. He took the glorious tree peony, which has an incredible leaf structure, an incredible, just like bowl shape, floral, stunning. He took that and crossed it with an herbaceous peony. And what resulted were the Itoh peonies. The Itoh peonies are a little bit different. This is something that carries a higher dollar, and also it's more sturdy in its structure. It doesn't need a lot of staking. And so therefore, this is one that I kind of call on time and time again in my design work when I have a client that I know just isn't going to be into going out and staking their garden. These ones, like an herbaceous, will also die back to the ground during winter. So before we dive into me planting the peonies I've selected for my garden, I want to run down a list of a few of the peonies that I play with time and time again in my design work. And in fact, I wrote a list because I was afraid that I would forget them. Okay, are we ready? These are the ones that I love. I love Duchess de Nemours. I don't know if I'm saying that right. This is a beautiful white, a little bit of yellow on the inner. Festiva Maxima. This one is a heavy hitter for me. Think white, luscious, and then deep kind of magenta edging on just a few of the inner petals. Sorbet, this is a new one. I actually just played with this one for the first time this year. And this is for you who want like a wonkadoodle structure to your peony. It's super duper fun. I planted several of these at my client's house. They bloomed their little heads off. It was really fun to see. Next, Sarah Bernhardt. I feel like this is your classic pale pink peony. It's bold proof. It's been around forever. Love it to pieces. Next, Coral Charm. This is a little bit more open styled, really beautiful coloring, gorgeous selection. Next, I have Buckeye Bell. Now this is one that I think I might add to my garden, but stay tuned on that. That will be further down the road. My last recommendation in the herbaceous peony category is actually one called Karl Rosenfield. And this is the one I'm going to be planting in just a few minutes in my garden. And the reason I love it is like this deep saturated raspberry. And actually I find that it doesn't need as heavy staking as some of the others. The Festiva Maxima, the Sarah Bernhardt, those are ones that like reliably you need to stake. Otherwise it is flop city. We're talking like blooms on the dirt. And so I'm going to be planting some Karls and I will show you where those are going to go. Now, all the peonies that I've just mentioned, you're going to need a support structure because they're not like an Itoh or a tree peony. You can do a couple things. There are some coil structures, there's some plain hoops, there's some half hoops. My recommendation is always the grid style support. I feel like these do the best job of holding up each individual bloom and helping it stand out within the landscape. Now, let's talk about Itoh peonies because I really have 3 recommendations there of ones that I play with. Probably the peony, the Itoh peony I play with the most in my design work is one called Canary Brilliance. I love it. It has this warm yellow. Sometimes it'll throw in some like peachy or copper tones. I find it is the most sophisticated and dynamic coloring of a yellow kind of copper peach peony. It is just sensational. I use it time and time again. I've planted it in my aunt's garden. I mean, this is a really, really good one if you want to venture into the Itoh peony category. The other 2 recommendations for Itohs are one called Yumi. This one I love. I have a good girlfriend whose daughter's name is Yumi, and I always think of her. It is this lovely pale yellow, beautiful form. This is just like a little delicate ray of sunshine, nothing too intense. Absolutely sensational. And then also, by the way, the Itoh peony series originally developed as mostly all yellow peonies, which is kind of a cool thing. Now, my last selection in the Itoh peony category is one called Cora Louise. This one, you're going to notice, is a very different color story. You get some really beautiful deep veining at the throat. And again, a very gorgeous selection that doesn't need a lot of staking, doesn't need a lot of care. All right, friends, welcome to my side yard. A lot of you like to know directions. So I was just standing right over there at my dining patio. And now if you walk through my edible garden space, this is where we are in the side garden. Now, during the winter months, the light is pretty low. And so this really turns into a, I would say, part shade area. But during the summer months, this gets blasted by sun because the sun goes all the way up and over. And so this is kind of ideal conditions. I actually tried it the past couple years with another one of these Karl Rosenfield peonies, and it performed beautifully. So I know that this is a great site condition for growing peonies. Okay, I want to show you the one that I experimented with. It's actually right here. It is showing the best fall color right now. And I just had my first peony bloom this past year. And that's to be expected. When you're planting an herbaceous peony, unless you buy them completely loaded with blooms, you should expect for it to really spend its first year throwing down roots. The second year, you might get a bloom or two. And then the third year is when you're actually going to see the blooms. Now, I want to bust a couple myths. And I don't know if they're myths so much as just different ways people do things, but there are a lot of people who will completely deadhead their peonies before a single bloom bursts open. And they'll do that sometimes for 3 years. And yes, you can do that, but I personally have never experienced any benefit to it. The thing you do want to do though is what I did here. As soon as that bloom starts to fade, I want you to chop it off, because what you don't want your peony to do is focus on setting seed the first 2 to 3 years. So enjoy it on the plant, love it. And if you do want to bring that bloom into the house, which you can do in those first 3 years, just make sure you are not cutting it too deep. We are not going for stem length these first 3 years. We are just gonna enjoy that little bloom, because I want you to leave as much foliage on the plant as possible so that it's photosynthesizing and it's getting that root structure off to the races. Once you have a peony patch established, we're talking decades in the garden. This is just a great investment for the long term. So before we go planting these, I want to kind of bring you in close on one that I actually thought died. Basically, I bought it in the middle of summer because I was afraid I wouldn't get my hands on it. I kept it in its pot. It really struggle bust, but guess what? She's still alive. Okay, Brian is currently laughing at me because I'm showing you a very sad looking plant. But here is my promise to you. I'm gonna be real on the internet because it doesn't do me a lick of good to be like, hey, I'm a big fancy gardener. When really, gardeners do this all the dang time. And if someone doesn't, they are lying like a dog. I'm gonna pop it out of the pot and I'm gonna show you why, like, I am feeling very comfortable planting this in my garden. Are you ready? Okay. Okay, boom. Here she is. Now, you can see, let me actually zoom you in kind of close on this. Look at this chunk of a peony. It is an incredible rhizome. In fact, I'm gonna break some of this soil off so that we can get even a better look at it. Oh my God, I just got dirt down my shirt. Oh my God, this is hot mess gardening. If you don't have dirt in your shirt while gardening, are you even trying? Okay, I'm taking off a big boatload of the top. Essentially, I've let this peony spend its first year in a pot. And what I'm about ready to show you is making my little garden heart happy. You know, I was telling you when you're shopping online for peonies, you really want to get like a rhizome that has 3 to 5 eyes. Well, check this out. So this is the eye development. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. 4, 5. There's a 6th one up in there. I mean, if we're talking about a healthy root system, this is it. So yes, the foliage, super crispy, does not look good. But these are signs of life. And I am just tickled. Now, if you're transplanting a pot into the ground, match the level of the container. Do not bury this sucker 3 inches deep. It's not gonna bloom for you. It just won't do it. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I do not want to exceed 2 inches from my top eye. So I think my top eye is actually this one back here. And essentially it is right there at the base of this growth. And so I'm only gonna bury it 1.5 inches. That's my preferred method. I'm gonna bury it 1.5 inches and that's it. Once I dig my hole, I'm gonna chuck in a little bit of biotone. You can also chuck in some mycorrhizal fungi, anything to help that root system to get off to a good start. And then that's it. Wish it good night. You're gonna see this beauty in the spring. Oh, last tip, enjoy the fall foliage, enjoy it. And then as soon as the frost kills it, I would say for me, peony foliage tends to go soggy and slimy on me during the winter months. So I simply cut it off at the surface level, dispose of the leaves, and we're on to our next adventure. One last thing, always consult the size of your peony. This Karl Rosenfield gets about 3 feet tall and wide. And this is actually a really good plant for the middle of the border. I'm gonna have a lot of stuff that's taller in back of it. I like to anchor the base with some smaller fluffy stuff. So 3 feet tall and wide, great mid-border specimen. I'm not gonna put it by my front door because it has such a short bloom window. However, I am heavily in my edible garden every single late spring and early summer, every single day. And so by planting it right here, I get to enjoy it in its peak without missing a single moment of the bloom. let's talk about soil conditions really quickly. Peony do not like to sit in heavy clay and heavy water. They like the moisture, but they also like some pretty free draining soil. My soil conditions are actually really dry. They're super duper sandy. Oh, by the way, remember that footage that we showed you at the beginning of the video? Granted, I have a thick layer of mulch, but just like, look at this. You guys, it's so ridiculous. But all that to say, what's kind of cool about this location and why I was trialing it is I was like, are my peonies gonna get enough moisture? Well, what happens is my drip system actually terminates here. So I'm gonna be adding on to it, but all this water starts to run downhill. It hits my peonies, but they aren't gonna get super duper saturated or be sitting in mud. You guys, this is gonna do it for me today. Some days you win and some days it's a total downpour. But good news, oh my God, it's hitting me in the eye. The good news here is I don't have to water my peony because I believe Mother Nature is taking care of that for me. Okay, I'll see you in the next one. In the meantime, say hello to your garden for me.